Alright, good evening, everyone. Can we all hear me? Good evening.
Good
Yes,
evening.
over the
I can hear
yes, good
you.
evening, Mr. Dami. Thank you so much. All right, good evening. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the JIIPCC Mentorship and Internship Program. We are officially in our first week of this quarter, that is the first and second quarter of 2025. Thank you all so much for joining in. We'll be starting right about now. I can see we already have one of our mentors in class. Thank you so much, Miss Omotayo, for joining us. She will be one of our mentors for today, trying to give just trying to give us a run through of what for today is going to look like. So our topic for today is film business and law. I'm sure we are ready. For those who participated in the group presentation, I'm sure you are excited to hear what our mentors have to say, and you're looking forward to every bit of what this particular session holds. I'm so sorry about the lighting in my background; it's quite poor. That's why my video quality is not so good. But we go straight ahead to start the class by introducing our mentors. Okay, we'll be going straight to introduce our mentors. Our first mentor for today is going to be Miss Amanda Uzoaba, Esquire, Miss Inoma, who is an entertainment lawyer, award-winning author, entertainment executive slash consultant, public speaker, and a legal educator. She holds a law degree from Nigeria, from law degree from Nigeria University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and was called to the bar in 2017. She is currently the head of licensing West Africa at undumbo.com AS, a Pan-African music service company where she oversees licensing operations within West Africa, particularly Ghana and Nigeria. Amanda has facilitated many events, conferences, and web targeted at educating entrepreneurs, and creating intellectual property rights works. She has more than 8 years of experience in the entertainment industry, starting as a blogger and a PR consultant for record labels before she was called to the Nigerian bar. As an entertainment business executive, she has facilitated and negotiated over $5 million $5 million involving catalog sales, endorsement deals, branding, licensing distributions, publishing deals, recording deals, live events, and so on for an array of artists, record labels, and investors, as well as helping them navigate the complex legal landscape of the music business. She has also worked on more than 45 production exhibited in theaters, film festivals, and on international streaming platforms. She has also worked on a variety of co-production, development, and production deals with international studios such as Netflix, Sony Pictures, BBC, Westbrook, AMC, Amazon Prime, Green Door Production, etc. In 2019, Amanda launched a consultancy firm called Goodweek Consults, a boutique consulting firm that focuses on the entertainment and creative business, providing a range of services related to the legal and business aspects of the entertainment industry. Her diverse background and extensive experience makes her a prominent figure in the intersection of law and the entertainment industry in Nigeria and across the world. Thank you so much, Ms. Amanda Uzoaba. I can see you're already here with us on the call. Thank you so much for joining in. Our second mentor for today is Ms. Omotayo Abiode. Omotayo Alemeru Abiode is the founder and lead consultant at My Digital Lawyer, where she uses her experience in intellectual property and entertainment law to educate and enlighten creatives and entrepreneurs on how to legalize and protect their trends and innovation. She has a master's degree in intellectual property law and policy and has completed several certifications in intellectual property with international organizations, including but not limited to the World Intellectual Property Organization. Omotayo, also widely known as my digital lawyer, regularly advises and represents a wide range of brand with and within and outside Nigeria and transactional commercial issues, including bank and technical legal issues surrounding intellectual property, media, and entertainment, with about 10 years post call experience and about 5 years active experience. Um, active experience in being an IP lawyer and tutor. Omotayo likes to identify herself as a woman in entertainment and intellectual property because she constantly works with entrepreneurs and creatives, and she uses her practical experience to teach intellectual property rights, thereby helping business owners and creative legalize and protect their brands, innovation, creative works effectively. Omotayo has an excellent reputation for constantly sharing great values with her audience, great values with great values with her audience online. She has been interviewed on quite a number of shows on international TV like Arise News and X-Paid Media in the United States, both digitally and in person, respectively. She also has a YouTube channel, My Digital Lawyer, where she posts legal content on IP, entertainment law, and related content to their businesses and creators understand how to protect their intellectual property rights. She does this across all her social media platforms, such as Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and TikTok. Omotayo stands out for gender equality in the workplace by using her voice, especially on digital media, to communicate the need to embrace equity, as well as to celebrate diversity, particularly in the creative community, so women can be given equal opportunity as their male counterparts in every sphere of work. Thank you so much, Ma, for joining us. We are happy to have you in class. Once again, welcome to the JIIPCC Mentorship and Internship Program, Week 1. We are happy to have everyone currently here on call. Thank you so much for joining. So the way our class is going to go, or this session is going to go, is that we'll be having firstly introductions from. Okay, you can no longer hear me. Can you hear me better now? Can anyone hear me? Oh, okay. Okay, let me see if I can work on that. Sorry. Sorry about the network. Okay, is it better now? Is my network better now? Okay, not to waste any time. I hope there are people who can hear me. So what we'll be going straight into is introduction from our mentors. We'll be taking introduction from mentors, and then we will take, after the introduction, we'll take a quick picture because of the lighting in the background, and then we'll go over to mentees presentation. We'll take feedbacks from mentors on the presentation made by mentees. We'll have a Q&A session, and then after the Q&A session, we'll call it a day for today's class. So starting with Ms. Omotayo, thank you so much, Ma, for joining. We would just like for you to, in the next 20 minutes, give us a discourse on today's topic. Mr. Bello, I can see you raising your hand. Do you have anything you would like to share? Ms. Omotayo, are you with us, Ma? Okay, if Ms. Omotayo can't hear me, Ms. Amanda.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. So, yeah, the topic for today's film business and law, if I'm not mistaken, yes. So, I've been opportunity to look through some of your presentations. So I'm really, really interested and looking forward to having you guys present it and for us to discuss it. Um, you've done a good job researching it. It's not, yeah, you've done a really, really good job. I think what myself and Omotayo will be doing more this period is trying to tailor it to what is actually practical in Nollywood because um sometimes what you find online is not exactly what you see in practice, but it's good enough knowledge to have because the industry is always changing. So we eventually hopefully get to that point. So in a nutshell, we already know how Nollywood is set up. The film business literally starts from before the movie, like when people are just discussing, starts from concepts. And a lot of these movies that I watch today, the conceptualization of them started years ago. For example, when I was at Ever in Life, there are a lot of movies that we are bettered or the concepts came up that we've not seen up to this age or this time, and we'll probably not even see for the next 3, 4, 5 years, because after the movie, the concept is brought up, then someone develops it. Then because of how expensive movie is, except if you're doing even a YouTube movie, is money that you used to still shoot it. But except if you're shooting something that is small budget that you don't need to shoot much. If you're shooting off a cinema standard or sorry, streaming platform standard, they need a lot of money, which means you need financiers, you need production partners, you need investors, you even need maybe a distribution company, a streaming platform already on the way. So that's the period that most of these concepts get delayed or get most of these movies get delayed because there's this back and forth. Should we do, should we not do, rechanging, rewriting, retitling of the movies and everything. But once it passed that phase, then obviously we have the pre-production stage. Ball gets rolling. People start getting casted. Producers, directors, um costumiers, the videographers, the cinematographers, the basically the HODs, the art department, everybody gets into the game. The location guys start scouting for it. And from pre-production, we go to production, we go to post-production, we go to distribution, the movie gets out, you watch it. That part, a lot of people already know how it works. That part is what you day-to-day deal with within the film industry if you're a lawyer. Then there's the part that most, I would say, privileged people get to deal with. There's a part that's the conk business. When we are talking about making a prequel or a sequel or a reboot or a remake, when you're dealing with TV and talking about, okay, this TV series is about to be rebooted. When we are talking about that angle is when music, that's when film business comes into play in depth, when you start trying to figuring out who has the intellectual property, how you're maintaining the chain of title, whether chain of title is up to date. Even in the process of production and making the movie, I think another part of the industry or the business that is quite in depth is when it comes to clearances of third party materials being used. So like I said, your some of your presentations we are very much in depth. So I'm looking forward to this. Let me know overburden you or overbore you with lots of information at an introductory level. Yeah, so by the time you make your presentations, we discuss everything properly. And if you have any questions at all, I believe myself and Omota, you are very, very capable to answer those questions. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Amanda, for that wonderful introduction from your end. We look forward to hearing your feedback during after the mentees are done with their presentation. Now we'll be going back to Ms. Omotayo. Ms. Omotayo, if you're with us now, we would like to get an introduction from you for the topic for today. Ms. Omotayo, are you with us? Ms. Omotayo, can you hear us, ma?
Oh, hi. I forgot I was muted. Good evening. My apologies, please. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, good evening, ma. We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Thank you very much. Hello, Amanda. It's so nice to be here with you. Amanda is like my oga in this business, so I'm wondering what I'm going to teach you all. But then we'll share ideas, right?
They whine me, go straight to the point. Let's do this. Hi.
Okay, so I read, I would honestly say I scanned through your presentations, and I think what Amanda and I will do mostly, right, would be to speak from the practical aspects of this, because law as it is and law as it ought to be, they are two different things, right? And what is expected in reality oftentimes is different from what you actually see in writing. But you all, like, from what I read from both groups, it looks like there's been some great level of research. So first thing I would like to just say is, if you understand what your contracts is all about, the basic law of contracts, right? If you understand the basic law of contracts, if you understand the basic law of intellectual property right, I think that's a very, very good foundation for you to start up as an entertainment lawyer, as a film lawyer. That's one. Then secondly, you should understand the film business itself. So I'll use myself as an example, right? Like, when I started out entertainment law, I started from music in 2017, right? I worked in a music firm. But then when I started having clients from the film aspects, right? Yes, I understood the basics of contract law, basics of intellectual property law, but there were some practical aspects. Like I mentioned earlier, I said Amanda is my oga here. I reached out to Amanda, one of my very first film retainership I had, right? I had to reach out to her that what is the practical thing that is done in this. I think it has to do with credits. So what I would like to, I don't know if this is going to be like a conclusive statement, but it's very important that you note that to network with industry professionals, entertainment lawyers, and those in the film business itself is very, very important, because you can't give what you don't have, right? You cannot transact on behalf of someone in the entertainment industry if you do not even understand their business particularly. So I believe one of the mistakes we make as lawyers is, oh, you have the general knowledge, you have the knowledge, you're able to research, you can go online and check one or two things, but you do not understand really practically what happens in this industry. So if you're able to get your contract law correctly, get your IP law correctly, and understand the main business, what goes on in pre-production, production, post-production, the kind of credits that goes to who owns what. If you understand all of those within the industry, then I believe you are good to go. And of course, you keep learning. I believe I'm still a work in progress. Even it looks like, oh, I'm supposed to be your mentor. I believe I'm still a work in progress, but we learn every now and then. So when we look through your presentations together, right, we may be able to answer your practical questions, not just research questions from this session. Okay, so that'll be all for now.
All right, thank you very much, Ma, for that introduction. As we've heard from our mentors, they just gave us a quick introduction to, the topic for today. Over the course of your presentation, after the groups are done with their presentation, they will give practical feedbacks to, to the presentation and the work that was done. And then they can also answer practical questions as regards the film business and industry, the film business and law space. But before we quickly go to the presentation of the mentees, we would just like to quickly ask that if it's possible, right, if it's possible, can we have mentees turn on their videos on, so that we can take a quick screenshot of the class and then we can move on, right? We can take a quick screenshot and then we can move on. Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Bello. Ajibade, can we have more mentees turn on their videos? Let's take a quick screenshots and then we'll move on with the rest of class. Please, if you have good lighting in your background, I would like to kindly ask that you turn on your video. Thank you as you comply. Okay, we don't have more people with good lighting in their background. Okay. Oluwayemisi, thank you very much. Can we have more mentees? Thank you very much, Ma. It's nice seeing you again, Ma.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much, everyone. Okay, we are done with that.
Okay.
Right, so
Bye.
yes, ma'am. So we'll be going straight into mentees presentation. I know our mentees are here, they've done their work, made their research, and put together a presentation for us. We would like to kindly hear from their end, based off of their findings, what the film business and law space is like, based off of the topic and the subtopics that were given to them. We'd like to hear from them. I think in 7 minutes, try to keep your presentation as quick as possible so that we can take the next group's presentation and then we can get feedbacks from the mentors. So group one, if you're ready, the floor is yours for your presentation. Group presenter, you can kindly unmute yourself, share your screen and start your presentation. Do we have the presenter for group one in class?
Yes, we do. I'm trying to share my screen at the moment, sir.
Oh, all right, no problem. All right, so you can see your screen. Can you kindly go ahead and start?
All right, yes, I'm almost fine. Hey, good evening, everybody. Am I being heard?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, I'll be starting my presentation in 3, 2, 1. Imagine working on a film for over a month, only to find out that it has been leaked online, or your earning model has been completely altered, and all the hard work you put in, you can no longer profit from it. The film industry isn't just about creativity. It is a business driven by legal agreements, contracts, and intellectual property. My name is Bello Safnasir Ajibade, and I'll be the presenter from Group 1. And the topic of my presentation is film and business law. So, sorry about that. I'm going to take the introduction first. See, film and business law comprises of the legal and commercial aspects of filmmaking, encompassing areas such as intellectual property, contracts, among others. The role of law in filmmaking includes legal protection, structured business models, etc. Major concerns faced in film business. Majorly, the film business is divided into like two aspects. That is the business part and the legal part. So, in the legal part, we have areas of law such as contract law, intellectual property law, entertainment law, tax law, defamation law, and privacy laws. So, uh, as far as contract is concerned, we all know that in a film there has to be some sort of contract between actors, stakeholders, uh, distribution companies, and studios, and all of that. So in the film business, contract law plays a very important role, and also intellectual property law. Intellectual property law, such as copyrights. Copyright is very, very important because films are intellectual property, and the protection of scripts and trademark is also very, very important, because it will be very awkward if a person or if a film is made, a movie such as, let's say, Game of Thrones, for example, for those who have seen Game of Thrones, it will be very weird if another person could just create
Mr.
another
Pedro, are you
movie
still
and
with
title it
us?
Game of
I'm
Thrones?
struggling to hear you.
Hello? Can you hear me now? Hello?
Well, I can hear you clearly from here. I can hear you clearly.
Okay. So I should go on then.
Yeah,
Yes.
go on.
All right, thank you. So like as I was saying, if anyone could just uh create another movie and title it Game of Thrones, it would be a violation to the trademark protecting the movie title. And also in terms of privacy and defamation law, preventing unauthorized usage of real life stories or defamatory content in films. In the recently, there's been this scandal about Burna Boy and the Lamborghini situation. So imagine if anyone could just like make a movie about it and title it, let's say Lamborghini Girls, and maybe feature Burna Boy's story in that film. It would be very, it would be it would be a violation to the privacy rights of Burna Boy and the persons and the people involved. So another key thing to discuss in film business and law is ownership. Ownership in the film industry is primarily governed by intellectual property rights, particularly copyright laws, which determine who controls the commercial exploitation of films. So there are different kinds of film ownership, ranging from copyright ownership, joint ownership, work for hire agreements, distributory rights, moral rights. Copyright ownership normally um, the copyrights include things like scripts, music, and cinematography, and sometimes even the ideas or the technology used in filming the movie, from animation to CGI. So ownership normally belongs to the to the studio. So according to this, like so IP rights can also be broken down into the following: from copyright, intellectual rights rather can be broken down into the following: copyrights, which protects scripts, screenplay, dialogue, cinematography, soundtracks, etc., and trademark, such as which helps to protect film titles, logos, franchise, etc. Also, patents. They are rare but applicable in filmmaking technologies, like I mentioned earlier, animation or CGI. So normally, the screenwriter owns the script, unless sold to a producer or studio. The right to the right of the director depends on the contract terms. For example, director's cut rights, production company studios often hold overall ownership through contracts. And also, distributors, streaming platform can also acquire temporary or permanent rights. A typical example of this is networks such as Netflix. They pay studio licensing fee to stream films, while others create original content to own full rights. Moving forward, we have film financing. As we know, as earlier said by one of our mentors, producing a film can be very, very expensive, and sometimes one person may not have the funds required to actually make your film. So there are various ways of acquiring these fundings, include studio financing. Major film studios fund projects, often retaining ownership rights. There's also independent financing, private investors, grants, or personal fundings are used to produce films. Also, pre-sales agreements. Distributors buy rights before production to secure funding. There's also crowdfunding and public investment platforms like Kickstarter allows funds to fund projects. A typical example of this is in the case of Paramount Pictures and Axana Productions 2017. The reason I'm citing this case is because the Axana Production is a fan group who made a Star Trek fan film. They made a Star Trek fan film called Axana and raised over $1 million through crowdfunding. So although later on they were in their case against Paramount Pictures, they were sued for copyright infringement. But I feel like it's relevant because it's one of the examples where the crowd actually funded the movie. Deadpool also 2016 was partly funded by the crowd. So the legal considerations in film financing includes security law compliances. If films raise funds from investors, they must comply with financial regulations. It's very important because it's a business. So there's also debt and equity financing. This determines whether investors receive a share of profits or repayment of funds. And also there is the issue of collective management. Collective management refers to a system in which rights holders like filmmakers, scriptwriters, and composers collectively manage and license their rights to ensure streamlined administration, especially for royalties and usage fee. Collective managers organizations ensure fair compensation for film contributors, the directors, writers, actors, composers, etc., by managing their licensing and royalty distribution. So majorly, the roles of collective management organizations include copyright management, which ensures creators receive royalties for their work, licensing and royalties, collecting and distributing payments for replays, adaptations, and screening. There's also legal protection, enforces copyright laws against piracy and unauthorized use. So here are a few examples of collective management organization. Motion Picture Association, MPA, for major Hollywood studios. Is also Writers Guild of America. So I would like to mention some of the cases that I discovered while researching this topic. And one of them relates to breach of contracts. It's the case of Scarlett Johansson versus Disney 2021. She sued Disney for breach of contract after they released Black Widow on Disney Plus simultaneously as it was released on theater. She claimed it affected her salary as it was partly based on box office earning. To cut a long story short, although they settled out of court, but what they did, what happened in the case was actually a breach of contract because it was stated in their contract that our major salary is going to be is going to be gotten from box office earning. And while they released it out of theater and it could be streamed, that significantly cut our earning. So the issue was settled out of court, and there's also the case I mentioned. Hello? Am I audible, please?
Yeah, you are.
Hello, everyone.
Yes, Mr. Bello, can you hear me?
Yes, I had a network problem.
Okay, sorry about that. The network also disappeared from my end. Please, you can go ahead and continue with your presentation.
Please, where was I? Because I think I may have spoken for longer than I was heard. Hello?
Hello, I said you can go ahead and continue with your presentation.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, yes, I can hear you. Please, you can go ahead and continue.
Okay, my question is where was I before you lost connection? Okay, thank you. Someone has reminded me. The person said it's Disney case. So yes, I've exhausted everything on this slide. So I'll just explain what happened in the Disney case. The Disney case is between Scarlett Johansson versus Disney 2021. She sued Disney for breach of contract after they released Black Widow. Okay. Okay, I'm going to share the screen back. I'm sorry about that. Sorry. Okay. So, like I was saying, the Disney case is between Scarlett Johansson versus Disney 2021. She sued Disney for breach of contract after they released Black Widow on Disney Plus simultaneously as it was released on theater. She claimed it affected her salary as it was partly based on box office earnings. So basically, what happened was that if we notice, movies are often released on theater first at cinemas before they can be streamed. So this new invention would automatically, if the term of the contract entail that it would be on theater for, like, let's say for a while before it will be released on these streaming platforms. So definitely the conduct of Disney by releasing it on Disney Plus will to some extent cut our earning. And the case was settled out of contracts. However, this case is relevant because it's one of those issues of breach of contract in the film industry. And also, I also mentioned the case of Paramount Pictures and Axana Productions 2017, where Axana Production, a fan group, made a Star Trek fan film called Axana and raised over 1 million through crowdfunding. The reason I started this case is because of its relevance to the fact that funding can come from by way of crowdfunding. And also, in that case, they were sued over copyright infringement because their film bears so much resemblance with the original Star Trek movie. So I believe that marks the end of our presentation. So I just want us to have at the back of our mind that next time we are watching a movie, we should always be reminded that it's not only about creativity, it's also about it's not just about storytelling, it's a carefully crafted legal and business deal. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Bello, for that wonderful presentation from your end. I apologize to everyone on call for the glitch in network. We hope that it doesn't happen again over the course of this call. So we'll be moving over to group 2. Please, as soon as possible, let's have presentation from group 2 so that we can go back to our mentors. Group 2 presenter, if you are with us, you have 7 minutes for your presentation.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Let me just share my screen. Sorry, kindly give me a minute.
Okay, can you start your presentation? I'll try to share your screen from my end.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to do. Okay, let me see. Yeah. Okay, please. Okay, yes. So I'm sharing now. So, group two presentation is also on film business and law, and um, we're going to be discussing certain areas of film business and law, such as the organizations, royalties, distribution, infringement and enforcement, contracts, and we're going to analyze these areas that are basically just part of the business areas and the legal areas of film business. So, like we know, film is a work that is protected by copyright, and just like many other works that are protected by copyright, behind it there are a lot of complexities involved, and these complexities are ranging from, you know, business strategies, legal agreements, marketing, and all of that. And in this presentation, we just want to focus on like two major areas, that is the legal area and the business area of filmmaking, and everything it entails. So we're going to start with organization and royalties. Royalties, as we know, are like payments, they're like profits or payments made to the parties involved in a creative work, like payments gotten from the commercial profit of that work paid to parties rightfully, I suppose. So there are different types of royalties in the film industry, and some of these royalties include, for example, streaming royalties. We know that from the name, we know that these are payments that are gotten from films that are being streamed on streaming platforms, for example, Netflix, Prime Video, and all of that. There are also box office royalties that are also known as back end points or back end profits. These are payments given to the people involved in that work, the actors, the directors, the producers, based on the box office performance of a film. And there's also home entertainment royalties. These are usually gotten from sales or rentals of that film or DVDs or digital downloads. Like, for example, Prime Video, for films that are not streaming on Prime Video, they are, most of them, a lot of them are being sold or being rented. So the money gotten from that, from those films that are being sold or rented, are examples of home entertainment royalties. And then there's also syndication royalties. That's when the TV show is sold to multiple networks after its initial run. For example, after, like the previous presenter said, mostly when a movie is being released, it first shows in theaters or in the cinema before um before it's being shown on like other networks, other broadcasting channels or streaming channels. So these syndication royalties are those payments that come after the initial run when it is sold to like multiple other networks. And then there's also residuals. These payments are made to like the people involved in the work when the show or the film is re-aired on a platform. So, um, how do we protect and manage film and TV rights? a lot of them don't really have knowledge on the legal or the business aspect of the work. Most of them just focus on their art. But it is very important that for those creators to be able to be compensated fairly, they should be able to protect and manage their rights in their works. So in the film industry now, there are a couple of ways that that filmmakers, that scriptwriters, creators basically can manage and protect their rights. And I like to say that in the creative industry, I think that the two major pillars for a creator are having like a good management and a good legal support. If a creator has like a good management and a good legal support, he'll be able to navigate like the protection and management of his rights easily, because a good management and a good legal support will help that creator to be able to negotiate contracts carefully and precisely, and like with clear royalty terms. And they will also be able to help that creator to, you know, register his works, keep details or keep detailed records of his contracts and payments, and also help him regularly review royalty statements and address any issues that might come up in the future. So in doing this, there are certain organizations and also guilds that the works of the creator should be like registered to. These guilds might include like the Writers Guild of America, Actors Guild of Nigeria, and all that. And also there are organizations that plays key roles in managing royalties. And these organizations, they just help mostly in, especially in the aspect of film industry, they help in, you know, helping filmmakers to know how to manage their rights, their royalties, and help them navigate how like the industry works. So some of these organizations, as the previous presenter also stated, could be, one of them is the collective management organizations, and they help to manage and also, you know, license copyrights on behalf of the creators, and they also help in managing the distribution of royalties. Then we also have guilds and unions, like I said earlier, the Writers Guild of America, Directors Guild, Actors Guild of Nigeria. Then we also have regulatory bodies that help set the rules for film financing, distribution, and exhibition. Like for every work that is protected by, you know, copyright or related rights, there is a law, there's a rule that makes that work to be protected. And some of these regulatory bodies could be, you know, national bodies. They could also be treaties or conventions. For example, the World Intellectual Property Organization Copyright Treaty, the Berne Convention, and all of that. So these organizations, they just serve as like middlemen. They stay in the middle to ensure that creators' rights are protected and to ensure that they are duly compensated for their works, because just to like avoid unfair cases where the creators will do the work, they don't really know much about the legal area or the business area of their work. They end up selling all their economic rights, and at the end of the day, they're not even compensated for their work. So that is why it is important to, you know the legal and the business aspects of any industry, especially the film industry, because as one of the mentors said earlier, the film industry, there are a lot of things involved behind the scene than what we can see with our eyes. So it is important that measures are being kept in place to be able to understand these things before entering into anything. And then we also have distribution. We know that distribution is an example of economic rights of a work protected by copyright. And distribution is just like a process of bringing the work to the audience, because what's the point? How do creators make profits from their work if those works don't reach the audience? So that's where distribution comes in. It could come in form of like many ways: broadcasting, public performance, communication, and making available to the public. So some of the roles of film distributors include connecting film to platforms and cinemas, handling marketing and promotions, and securing international releases. And usually the contract length for a distribution agreement is 10 to 15 years. And there are many ways that distributors can be found by filmmakers. It depends on just certain things like the genre of the film, the budget, the target audience, and the platforms, the platforms which the filmmaker would want their films to air. It's a factor on how to find the distributors. And there are majorly two types of distributors: large distributors and niche or small distributors. So these large distributors, normally they work through using agents like sales agents, middlemen, while the niche distributors may accept like direct submissions by themselves. And there are certain methods of film distribution. So the first one we're going to look at is the self-distribution. And the self-distribution is just a direct release by the filmmaker without any middlemen, without traditional distributors. Meanwhile, there's pre-sale distribution. And this pre-sale distribution happens usually before the film is made. The distributor would agree to represent the film while it is complete, and depending on the agreements that they have with the creators. So this is, for example, a certain distribution channel, let's say Netflix, for example, before a film is being made, they will enter into an agreement with the filmmakers and decide to, take up all the responsibility. They will produce the movie and everything and air the movie, and then they will take a certain percentage, just depending on the agreement they have with the filmmakers. And then there's also film festivals and markets. And this form of distribution is when filmmakers take their films to, film festivals for screening, basically to just network with other distributors and sales agents in the industry, and to show their work to distributors through this method, to be able to find distributors for their film. And then next thing we're going to look at is infringement and enforcement. So infringement usually happens when the rights of, or when the work that is protected is being used without the permission of the author of that work or the creator of that work, and without the license of that author. So when that happens, then it becomes infringement. And infringement can happen in various forms. It can be unauthorized streaming on like piracy websites, unauthorized downloading of the works, illegal copying and sale of DVDs, or unauthorized uploads on digital platforms. Like, we always see filmmakers complaining about this. Like, I think in December, this female filmmaker, I think Funke Akindele, after the release of her last film, Everybody Loves Jennifer, she was complaining about this and like asking people not to watch pirated copies. They should go to the cinema and watch it in the appropriate way. So this is a very common thing. Infringements of the right of the creator is very common in the creative industry, not just the film industry. And then enforcement comes when the creator decides to like take legal actions against the people infringing or the person infringing on their intellectual property rights. Like when they just take legal actions to protect their rights, to safeguard their rights. And these actions, they involve certain things like civil actions, like asking for an injunction in court. And I think I read somewhere one time methods of enforcing copyright methods of enforcing copyright. Yes, there are so many methods that include, like I said earlier, civil remedies, criminal sanctions, and measures taken at the border. Sometimes you can just the owner of the right might seek that those works be not allowed to cross the border or entered into the country, and those works be destroyed. It just depends on the method of enforcement that the author seeks to apply to be able to protect his rights. And then we also have contracts. Earlier, one of the mentors was talking about how there are a lot of contracts involved in the film industry, and how, like, if we understand the law of contracts, then we'll understand this, because there are actually a lot of contracts involved in the film industry. And these contracts, she also mentioned that sometimes before a film is even being produced and even aired to the public, there is already like a lot that would have happened before we get to see it. And this brings us to like the first type of contract that happens in film industry, which is the pre-production contract. This happens like in the beginning, from maybe buying the economic rights of that work, the script itself, from the script writer, to option agreements, writer agreements, development agreements, financing agreements, location release agreements, then casting agreements. So these are some of the examples of pre-production agreements that are being entered into. And then we also have the production agreement. This happens during the production of that film. It involves the director, actors, crews, extras, just anything that happens during the production of the film, including confidentiality agreements and non-disclosure agreement. Then there's the post-production contract, which usually happens, after the production, after shooting the film, and it's time for editing and all that, adding the music. So getting license for the music to add to the film, visual effects agreements, composer agreements, the post-production facility agreements. And then there's also the distribution and marketing contracts agreements. We discussed distribution earlier, and we saw that distribution is an example of like the economic rights of that work. So for distribution to happen, definitely there has to be like agreement between the distribution platforms and the filmmakers, between just literally everybody involved in the making of that film. Also marketing and publicity agreements, the business aspect of the film, how the film is going to, generate profit. And then there's also legal and intellectual property contracts that includes or involves copyright assignment, license agreements, talent release agreements, merchandising agreements, and so forth. So having discussed like the legal and business aspects of filmmaking, like it is clear that there's a lot to filmmaking, and filmmakers have to go through so many methods to be able to like make a successful film. And for that to happen, they have to know the right channels to follow. They have to have strong support systems, and just to help them navigate the challenges and seize opportunities in the creative industry, because it's always evolving. So there's always like new things coming up, and there's always new things to be learned. So it's important that filmmakers and authors and all that, they stay on top of the game and make sure that they are always ahead. So understanding this area will not only protect the rights of creatives and their works, but it will also open doors to, greater opportunities in the film market. And then we have like a question. In case of international co-production, how do conflicting laws between different countries impact the negotiation of rights and responsibilities, and how can filmmakers minimize legal risk in such partnership? Like we know that different countries have different laws, even though a lot of countries derive their laws from some of those like conventions and treaties I mentioned earlier. For example, the Berne Convention, the WIPO copyright treaty. Some countries actually derive their laws from those conventions and those treaties. But we know that countries differ, and sometimes our laws are like influenced by our culture as like a country. And we know that there are also countries that are part of like the European Union, which let's say, for example, the Berne Convention, a lot of countries that are part of the European Union are like signatory to the Berne Convention. And there are also countries that like use common law countries. There are civil law countries. So our laws differ. And when two countries with different laws come together to make a film, what are some of the important things they need to know, or how do they minimize legal risk? So I think that there just has to be a lot of research done. There has to be a lot of crossing of T's and dotting of I's to make sure that there are no like conflicting agreements, or there are no agreements that are conflicting with the laws of any of the countries involved in like the production of that film. So this is basically what we have as Group 2 members, and we'll be excited to hear corrections and receive answers to some of the questions that we have. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, Joy, for that wonderful presentation from your end. And well done to you and your group members for putting the work together. So we'll be moving back to our mentors, right, to Miss Amanda and Miss Omotayo to give us feedback to the presentation, and maybe any other discourse or any other clarity they would like to add to the presentation. So I think we'll start first with Miss Amanda. Over to you, Ma, again. Please, Ma, do you have any feedback based off of the presentation that was made? And are there other things you would like that you would like to further expatiate on based off of your previous experience and knowledge within the film industry?
Okay. I think first thing I have to say, good job to the both teams. I think from what you've presented, you guys did an extensive research. You guys did good job putting it together. But like myself and Amata already mentioned at the beginning, some of the things that you've presented are not exactly as it is in the industry currently, or as you deal with it. I wish I could take note of most of the things that you said. I was trying to note them, but there was a point where I experienced a little bit of network issue. But I'll start with the last question Group 2 answered, which is on where there's an international productions, how do conflicting laws between different countries impact negotiations and negotiation of rights and responsibilities? How can filmmakers minimize legal risk? You said something, your answer was okay, which the thing you said that stood out to me is you just have to research. So during my time at Eboyan Life, you obviously know that Eboyan Life gets involved in a lot of international deals. And through that process, best believe when I tell you that on a daily basis, we have to keep doing research to find out, okay, does this stand? Especially when it comes to TV, because the TV structure in Nigeria and Africa is very different from what we have in the UK and the US. Because over there, especially when you're negotiating maybe a writer's agreement with for a TV series, you hear writers say things like, oh, if the movie is shown on this prime network, I want this type of amount of money. If this happens, I want this, which is very different from this point. So research is very, very important. But again, on the part of what's when there's a conflicting law, definitely there have to be a prevailing law. One has to stand out. And basically the person's law or the law out of the two production companies, the law that will stand out is a law that, depending on the type of deal it is, if you're still in the phase of development, then definitely is the law protecting the person bringing out the money for development. I've gotten to the point of production, there's most likely the law protecting the production of the movie. So that's how I'll just put it in a nutshell. But it's necessary for you to research. It's also very necessary for you to keep friends in other territories, because research just gives you limited knowledge. It gives you knowledge as to, for example, whatever I put out, I write from my own limited knowledge is what's going to fall on the internet as part of researchable materials. Do you get? Which over time could be different from what is practical. So it helps to have friends and colleagues. Mota mentioned something about networking. It helps to have friends over there. When I was at Ebony Live, sometimes I receive from some writers at agreement, and I'm reaching out to a senior colleague that works in the UK or in the US, and I sent some terms to him, and I'm like, is this normal? Because it's very different, like I said, from what we practice here in Nigeria. Now, I think I overheard someone say two things I overheard, which I want to clarify: CMOs and something about registering with some bodies and all of that. Making movie in Nigeria is ghetto and so single-minded. It's not like the US that there's plenty organizations and bodies and all of that. Basically, in Nigeria, for you to start making your movie, you need a filming permit. Sometimes, most times it's asked to have it. Most times people see it as, if I'm shooting on the road, I need it. If I'm shooting inside my house, police or enforcers won't come and knock on the door. But it's just necessary for you to have a filming permit that covers you throughout the period of filming. The next very important thing before your movie comes out is to send it for censorship, both for the classification, for classification, especially if it's going to cinema, even when it's going to streaming platform. The difference that if it's going to streaming platforms, most times it's the Netflix and the Amazon through their rep that will help with the censorship, or if you already have a distribution deal, then they will help with the censorship. If not, if you're going to cinema directly, and maybe not, you're doing it through a distributor, sometimes you have to work with the distributor, you have to do it yourself to send it in for censorship, have it watched by the censor board, get your classification, get your certificates before the movie is out in public. So, like I said, most of the things you guys have found out through your research is going to work for you on a broader note, but in Nigeria is a bit different, or in Africa is a bit different. On the part of CMOs in Nigeria, first of all, there's no, I would tell you for a fact, CMO in Nigeria is barely living or barely surviving. For now, their main focus is the bars, the hotels, the banks, the big establishment playing songs. So, like you guys have already mentioned, CMOs more like ASCAP, BMI, and all of these guys. Now, mind you, BMI and ASCAP is more of a PRO. So they may or may not have any business with your movie, except if maybe your movie is being played in, let's say, a bar, somewhere that is really in public that can be seen as that part of your song being played as performance. It's a bit tricky. But yes, they are the guys, they are more involved than the MROs and other guys. So they help you collect the money, but they only collect money for songs that the artists themselves register. So it's more like they don't get involved except if you get them involved. So that's why I just wanted to clarify that it's not an automatic thing that the CMOs are waiting for every movie that drops for them to collect money. No. Some artists don't even care about those. Some artists don't even submit their details for most of those CMOs. So what you just do is pay your sync license and master use, or your master use and sync license fee. They take their royalties and they go. Sadly, in Nigeria too, streaming platforms don't pay royalties. So the only thing that you could see close to royalties in Nigeria is YouTube money. But when it comes to streaming platforms, what we call royalties or residuals, you don't necessarily get it. You just get the license fee. I also saw, I think somewhere on the deck, someone wrote I don't know which of the group, but license terms are between, I think, 10 and 12 years, if I'm not mistaken. Standard is very hard for you to see a Netflix deal that is 10 years. Standard is 8 years. If they are relicensing, most times it's 8 years. Sorry, most times it's 5 years. So just have it at the back of your mind in case you eventually get to play around with such deals. If you're seeing anything 10 years, except if the money is really, really dope and there's not exclusivity. That's another thing. While you guys were doing this, I don't think I saw anything about video on demand, the difference between SVOD, subscription based video on demand, and AVOD, advert based video on demand. Each of you can go and research better on it. Now, the necessity or why it's necessary for you to know what each of these rights are is when the streaming platforms want to take rights, some of them will ask for exclusivity all round. But then it's not left to you, depending on the artist, sorry, depending on the studio or the production company or the producer that you're representing and their leverage to ask for certain exceptions. You can have it SVOD exclusive, which means if it's on Netflix, it can be on any other subscription channel, but it's AVOD free. It's free to air on TV. So that means can put it on TV, can put it on YouTube while it's also on Netflix and nothing will happen. Do you understand? You can have it licensed to Netflix or Amazon exclusively for the first 3 years. And then after that 3 years, the remaining, if they insist on 10 years, the remaining 7 years is non-exclusive. So your artist, your client being the producer of the studio can be able to make more money. So I think you can also research on that very well. I think I'll let Amatayo talk a bit so I don't hog everything. Okay, I think also on the part of film film financing, someone said something about crowdfunding, and it's very interesting to see. The only thing I would say is that, except correct me if I'm wrong, but I've not seen that successfully done in Nigeria. So when it comes to Nigeria, I'll give you the typical ways that people raise money. The most common way that people raise money is through finding an investor. So an investor that is going to invest either on a debt basis or an equity base. The difference being a debt basis means I'm putting in 2 naira and at the end of the day, I get my 2 naira and maybe some profits. Why equity base is I'm putting in this 2 naira. I don't care to get back my costs, my investment money, but what I know is for as long as this film lasts or is out there or is being exploited, I'm going to get this percentage each time revenue is generated. Do you get? So that's like the most common way, or that's what most people do. And I think people do that is coming very, very rampant, especially in days of YouTube now is co-production. So partnering with other people, other production company, or having someone finance and then have the producer still a co-production deal, like bring money, you use your platform, your services, everything you already have, and we co-join. My logo will be there, your logo will be there, and we'll do our thing. Another way that people raise money is through their personal money, through taking loans, and what I call micro investors. So sometimes that works all together, sometimes that works separately. Loans, we have some banks that are really generous with giving loans, or even if it's not giving loans, investing from an equity point. I think we've seen that with Sterling Bank and one of these movies. I think either Family Base or so, they did that. They've done a bit of other productions. We also have, let me not misquote banks, but yes, we have some of those banks. We even have Bank of Industry that is open to always giving loans depending on who. You can use your money to fund the movie if you want to. You can have micro investors. That's where you have a pool of investors. So rather than doing, I think I'll call that a Nigerian version of crowdfunding, but basically having like 10 people maybe contribute to 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, tiny bits of money, and you eventually get the full budget that you're looking for to use and make your movie. Then together with you running your own money, some people decide to do barter agreements where most of the people that are coming on set to shoot the movie, except let's say the smaller guys, but most HOD and actors are going to be on an equity base. Everybody is taking maybe 10% or 5%. We all own this movie, contribute or bring in your services for free and we'll give you this instead of payments kind of thing. So those are the most common ways that you're going to, that's the most common kind of funding. Not to say that we can't have something diverse or different in the industry, but I'm just like telling you this in case you start practicing and you're seeing things a bit different from what your research has said. Don't be taken aback. The industry is still growing and we eventually probably get to that point. So like I said, I think I've said enough, except if you have specific questions, you can ask me. I will allow Omotayo take it from here. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Amanda, for that very insightful feedback from you, and also the further explanation you gave to some other concepts within the film industry, especially as it pertains to Nigeria. So we'll be taking feedback from Ms. Omotayo, feedback generally on the presentation and maybe any other insightful knowledge you would like to share with us as regards the topic. So over to you, Ms. Omotayo. Ms. Omotayo, are you with us?
Hey, here. Hi,
Yes,
can you
ma'am.
hear me?
Yes, ma'am. We can hear you, ma'am. We can hear you, ma'am.
Okay.
Loud and clear.
Okay, thank you very much. The presenters, you all did really, really well, and I hope you understood what you presented. So it's not like you're just reading, but it seems to me like you at least you had a grasp of what you have presented, and I even think I learned, like I refreshed my memory from some of your presentations. So, and I also like to thank my colleague Amanda. You have done justice to this. I even learned so much also from her wealth of experience and the feedback she has dropped so far. So I don't even think there'll be need to actually show anything from my slide, right? Because it's still basic. So I rather just want to jump straight to my feedback. I'd rather just go straight to my feedback as I would not be presenting anything from my slides. Everything on my slide has already been discussed. And I want you to pay attention because I believe the practical aspects of this feedback will be more important to you than any presentation. So I'll speak about group one straight to someone. The presenter in group one mentioned something about defamation in in the film industry, right? And you gave an instance. I just want to address this instance you gave. You said if you decide to make a film based on the trending, um, how did you put it? You said something about this Burna Boy and the Lambo saga. If you decide to make a movie about it, you can be sued for defamation. So I would just like to put in context. First thing is, if you notice everything in law, when you have a question in not just entertainment law or film law, when you have a question posed before you, you have to say it depends on the circumstance of each case. So you can't just say, oh, if I make a movie about this Lambo saga, Burna Boy Lambo saga, I will be sued. In when you're trying to do a documentary or you're trying to do it's called a biopic actually for films, right? You want to say someone else's story in your film. You can actually say if you're worried about the fact that what you're putting out might be defamatory, right? You may decide to fairly, how do I put it? You may decide to fairly change a few things there. So in the heads of everyone, we know that this is similar to this person's trying to portray this person's story, right? But you can decide to change a few things just to say your story. And if you're saying your story, and it's the thing about the difference with defamation is if you're actually putting out the truth, which is provable, right? I hope you're following. I hope everyone's listening. If you're able to put out the truth, right, and it's provable, there's no one that's going to sue you. There's nothing like a lawsuit for defamation. So that's why you need to be careful about how you portray your story. If it's a biopic or you just want to talk about someone's situation in a film. It's not every time that someone says something about someone in real life that you see people are just really quick these days to say, oh, there's a defamatory suit, there's a defamatory suit. The first defense you're looking at is this the truth? Is it provable? Is there evidence that this is true? If it's true, there's nothing wrong with saying that story, repeating that story. You definitely win that case, unless of course litigation is a big deal and you don't want to go through that route. So I just want to correct the fact that you don't just think when there's a saga like that and you put out that story, you might get a defamatory lawsuit. Otherwise, we'll not be getting stories, we'll not have the opportunity to see documentaries on Netflix or any other streaming platforms, right? So you just have to get maybe like a disclaimer or just some sort of legal protection to show that okay, what I'm saying is just maybe you see things like when you see a movie. I'm sure Amanda has worked on things like that in several films like that in Ebony Life, such that you have to just put this disclaimer. um you see something like, how do they write it again? Oh, this is just a resemblance, or it's just a coincidental resemblance to so person, doesn't really portray so. There's where they put that disclaimer such that you're trying to avoid any form of lawsuit whatsoever. All right. And then the second thing I would like to address, I take note of this. Uh Someone mentioned something about, okay, you said films, I don't know if it's group 1 or group 2, right? Mentioned films are usually streamed. They go straight to box office, they go straight to cinemas before streaming platforms, right? That's you're actually correct on that, but it doesn't mean that has to be the case. It's just that it's like the norms, like industry practice. You want to just make, because of course you make much more money from maximizing the box office. You see how much money comes out from cinema movies compared to streaming platforms. And then once you're able to maximize that, you can still come back to streaming platforms. But there's something I would like to add. Like I mentioned, I would learn every day. You didn't really mention anything about, I'm not sure if you mentioned, if any of you really spoke well on licensing, right? It might just be a term, but it's good that you just understand what licensing is. I am the owner of the movie, but I'm giving you rights to sell and distribute, to sell this movie for me. That's licensing to distribution companies or distribution platforms. I'm giving you license. I'm giving you authority to stream my movie. That's licensing to streaming platforms. Now, when you're saying you are giving someone authority to do this with your work, two things should come in place. Am I giving you all of the authority? Because I can say, oh, I want to give you authority, do this with this. But as a lawyer, you're thinking ahead. Is it for a limited period of time? Are you allowed to be the only one? Can I give it? Because this is mine. Am I giving it to just you? Am I giving it to multiple other persons, right? So like I mentioned, we learn every day. I recently just realized that although the norm is a particular film streams on a streaming platform at a particular time, right? You can actually have two streaming platforms with licenses to stream a film at the same time. I don't know if you have experienced anything like that before. I would ordinarily, maybe 2 years ago, I'd have argued about this. And no, it has to be just, you can't, if you're seeing a title on Netflix, for instance, you can't see that same title on Prime, right? But then, like I mentioned, you have to understand, you can't say you're even a film lawyer and you don't like to watch movies. You don't like to, you have to just understand what's going on beyond entertaining yourself with that film or with that movie. So I recently just discovered that you can license and that's because I saw Suits. Okay, that's the example. I saw Suits on Amazon Prime. I saw Suits on Netflix, and I was wondering, wait, why do you have these particular films streamed on both platforms? It's hardly ever like that. So this brings me back to the licensing. So happened is the fact that what's the name of that? I think it's NBC, right? NBC Universal. And they had rights to license it. Amazon Prime, we had the right to license it to Europe. But despite it, do that a non-exclusive license. So beyond theoretical reading of what licensing is, you have to really understand. Just like I have my book, I have my phone, I have this. I want to give it to you, I have to borrow you. As I'm borrowing you, I still have some parts of it I can. So I have a big copy, I can borrow this person and borrow this other person at the same time. Beyond the general notion that just a streaming platform can stream a movie, you should know that two others can do so at the same time, depending on the license agreement. So, and that's where you as a lawyer come into play. In case you ever have a client or you are working in a film production company and you need to understand this, so you don't go about telling them, oh, you can't do this. Everything still boils down to your understanding of the law of contract. So exclusive license is exclusive, just like the name implies. I'm giving you all of this right and it's just for you, solely to you. Non-exclusive means I'm just giving you a part of this. I'm not giving you the entirety of the rights I have in so. So it means I'm still retaining some part. I hope everyone is listening. I'm not speaking to myself. It means I'm still retaining some parts of these rights. Okay. So I hope that addresses licensing for those that I don't know if you mentioned it or you didn't talk about it. So, and then someone mentioned royalties. How I think that was in group 2. You mentioned royalties. Unfortunately, we're in Nigeria, right? I would like to say I am not certain, or I have not seen, to the best of my ability, how royalties really practically work here in Nigeria. I believe there are a few, just like, okay, like Amanda mentioned, like this crowdfunding you all were speaking about, right? Unless there are a few times where, these big A-list actors or some actors come together and say, rather than just ask, I'm going to bring my service, I'll provide my service for free, not necessarily for free, but for a token. So that's where I get maybe a percentage or certain percentage of the monies that you realize from this movie. But the way royalties work in the musical industry, the music industry, is not that obtainable in Nigeria film industry, practically obtainable. So oftentimes it's just like the regular work for hire. You get paid as an artist, as an actor, as a director. You just get paid directly. And a few others decide, those that really know their worth. A few, I don't want to mention names because I'm not certain of the names, but I believe there are a few of them in Nigeria that decide to get paid according to percentage from so. And just like Amanda also mentioned, maybe for those in these YouTube filmmakers, that might actually work better for them, right? So I wouldn't really necessarily say you see these CMOs or royalty. What you have said, it's obtainable in other countries, but then unless you are looking at being by God's grace, and even if you're not an international entertainment lawyer, even when you're working as an entertainment lawyer in Nigeria, you work with other people, other countries, right? It's good that you localize, you understand how the industry works in your own jurisdiction. That's here in Nigeria, and understand how it works in another country, and you're able to merge both industry practices, both jurisdictions together, or understand them separately. Then okay, so the second thing I would like to also, I do remember, I think someone mentioned something about Funke Akindele's protection. Okay, yeah. Someone mentioned copyright enforcement, the several methods to enforce your copyright and to avoid infringements. You're very correct on that, but recall I said something about law as it is and law as it ought to be, right? You see, the fact that Funke Akindele came out openly to educate people and to subtly threaten people. If I find you doing so video, you're going to get arrested, because some people do not know this. So this brings me to a point I'm always preaching about. It is, as a creative, right, it is your own duty. It's first your duty, because you're the one that will be losing out on economic rights. It's first your duty to pursue your intellectual property right, like your life depends on it. You are the one to police it by yourself. No government or organization is going to come and do that for you. It's your own job first, before you now start to say, oh, these are the channels of protection I can go through. I can ask for help from this place. I can ask for help from. It's first. If imagine if Toyin Aimak or Toyin Abraham, as she calls herself, didn't even discover that there are Telegram channels with link, even got to the point of getting into Telegram channels just to see who these pirates are. No one would do that for her, and that's because it's your sweat. So it's first work of you as a creative, is firstly your own job to enforce, to police your work, right? To police your work while you are looking at enforcement of your copyright. So you're not just sitting there and saying, oh, the Nigerian government or the Nigerian Copyright Commission is going to do this for me. They will, of course, but how do you know that your work is being pirated somewhere if you don't even look out for it in the first place? So it's very important that you do not lose guard, in quotes. You stay on business. And then other ways to enforce. Oftentimes, it's not just I say, it's the law that you do not necessarily have to register your copyright. But if you do, because I recently had an experience with a YouTube filmmaker that his channel was taken down, right? And in as much as, yes, the law states copyright is already inherent in a creative work. Originally, once a work is created, right, copyright already exists in that work. I advocate for registration of copyright. Just, you know how they say it's better to err on the side of surplus. It's better to overdo than you are not even available. So this particular real case I want to share with you. This person lost their YouTube channel because they they collaborated with some other persons in the past and did not have any contract in place. And then the person uploaded the film on their own YouTube channel. And when it was after a period of time, the real owner of the film was about to upload this same film on his channel, and copyright infringement strike came from YouTube. And then when it was time for them to prove ownership, YouTube was actually legit asking for any government certification that shows they are the owners of this particular work. And that's when they were running helter-skelter looking for how to do a copyright registration. But then, I don't know, I believe it was too late, maybe because the certificate date came after the original production date. So it's just advise your clients or whatever company you work with to just stay. You don't necessarily have to do this, but that registration, getting your permits, just like Amanda said earlier, some people just believe, oh, if I'm shooting in my house, I don't necessarily need this filming this permit, this license. But just do your own parts. It's better to err on the side of surplus, of course. And so generally, I'll just say, just understand, like I mentioned in the beginning, understand the film industry. There's a lot of potential in this Nigerian film industry. A lot. In short, like there's so much that's beyond what we see on just the screens. But then there are lots and lots of risks, especially from those that are not able to protect themselves the right way. So it's good that you learn from people's experience, and you are able to help your own maybe client, or help yourself if you're a creative, to avoid losing money, to avoid losing your rights, to avoid getting unnecessary lawsuits. So, and beyond just research, because what you will learn on paper is not what's obtainable in real life. Every day you learn from your own experience or from other people's experience. Try to reach out to people for help. I told you my very, very first film retainership, I had to reach out to Amanda and I think someone else, and they told me this is how it's been done. Yes, I understood the theoretical part, but I had not done the real life thing before. So I had to ask those that were in the industry. So it's good that you have mentors you work with, or you have people that you reach out to, not just lawyers, also those in the industry. So you are not, you're not laid back. All right. So I guess that'll be all from my end. Thank you. Okay, I hope everybody heard what I said and I was not speaking to myself.
Yeah, we heard you.
Okay, so that'll be all from my end. Thank you very much, Amanda, for your response.
Sorry, what's going on? Organizers, everyone is quiet.
Hello.
Okay, I think before they take over, I saw in the comment section when Omotayo was talking, I think Oluwadamilola, you said something about having seen where actors are paid royalties. Do you care to share? Is it different from the YouTube one we already established, or do you mean royalties of streaming platforms? Did you get what I asked?
I'm sorry, please, can anyone hear me?
Dennis, now we can hear you.
Okay, sorry, so sorry about that. So I was saying that the floor is open for questions. We'll be taking live questions from the mentees. So please, if anyone has a live question they would like to ask, please you can kindly indicate by raising your hand or dropping your question in the chat box. And if there are no questions, then we'll be reading the questions that were sent during the research. And I would also like to ask a question. Do we have questions from, okay, I can see Mr. Oluwadamilola. Please, you can go ahead, unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello. Good evening. My first question is draft. Drafts. I think one major challenge I have is finding drafts for these agreements, be it a retainership, be it a distribution agreement, even down to writer's agreement. And of course, ideally, you would be advised to reach out to a fellow lawyer, but as a new week, you don't entirely have access to more experienced people. And even if you do, this isn't entirely their immediate focus. This isn't entirely their niche or their area of practice. So sometimes you may get a referral or you may have to rely entirely on what is obtainable on Google. I mean, even something as simple as a non-disclosure agreement, I could not get myself on a draft. I had to use a draft of a non-disclosure agreement from a previous internship as an undergraduate. So how do we get drafts that are in fact applicable to Nigerian law? I mean, how do we come up with these drafts? Is there any resources there? You know, yeah, that's the main challenge. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Sorry about the echo. Thank you so much, Mr. Damlola, for your question. Please, I would like to direct it to, or leave it open to any of our mentors who would like to answer that question, either Miss Amanda or Mrs. Omotayo. Please, the floor is yours to help answer the question from Mr. Oluwadamilola.
Hi Dennis. Before I answer the question, I did sorry to divert a bit from what you asked or your control. I did ask a question to Damilola. I don't know if he got it. He didn't answer before he asked his own questions.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. So Mr. Damilola, please would like to kindly find out from you if you heard the question. Okay, it seems he didn't hear the question.
You didn't get the question. I asked about the comment you dropped during the presentation. You said you've seen people get royalties. So I wanted to clarify whether it's outside YouTube payment, back end profit participation, whether it's YouTube money you're talking about, or if you're talking about to streaming platforms. Just like share with us.
Oh, okay. It was in fact a film production agreement. So what happened was I met someone who keyed into some sort of equity arrangement with the capital financier, I think a financial house. So what they did was people paid some amount of money. They broke down the rights or something, equated it in equity. So you could come in with, say, 5 million, 20 million, 50 million, and, key into the investment. And then when returns came in forms of profit and all these things, or they paid royalty, I think the movie, there's this people, I don't know if people are familiar, Film One, yes. So sometimes they open their movies for
Investor.
yeah, so you key in, you pay. And I think what the points they were illustrating was how profits in the film industry can be very, very slow. It can be fragmented, such that a movie that you've been done with 4 or 5 years ago is just beginning to give you profit on the seventh year. Or maybe there's a film festival, someone it's like that, bought rights to distribute within a region of the world. There's this place they call EMEA. I think that's Eastern Asia, all those places. So I think he explained how someone saw the movie, liked it, bought and paid quite a large sum of money for rights to distribute across a region. And then another person who thought it would be better agreeable within, I think, Southern America. And, people who invested then got returns on their money via royalties. And yeah, I think that's what happened, and this is how they explained it, anyways. And they explained a bit about Netflix. Apparently, Netflix pays outright, but they no longer do, I think, because earlier last year, I think Colin Afolayo came forward and explained the whole issue of outright payments, mismanagement of funding, and a reduction in quality of film production because people who received funding had in fact used part of the funding to fund their personal lives in part, in place of their projects. So yeah, that's it really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, Netflix pays outright. Netflix pays royalties outside Africa, but they don't pay royalties in Africa. The outright payment that they make is for license. So each license period, or whenever your movie is being either first time license or relicense, you get a fee. Now, if you're looking at royalties from that point, then yes, that's royalties, but it's not royalties per se. So most times when you say royalties in the industry, is more of monies that the creatives themselves receive for the works that they've done, contributed. So that's why I asked for clarification. So in the film industry, royalties is kind of foreign, not that it doesn't exist. I can tell you for a fact, I think that was either Chief Daddy or Wedding Party, some actors did get royalties of that production, but it doesn't happen always. It's a very, very rare occasion. So the part of monies that the investors get back, we don't exactly use the word royalties. But yeah, thanks for the clarification. On the part of your question being draft. Sadly, I wish I could tell you that there's one standpoint or one particular place where you can get it from. Most times you just either have to develop your own and then send someone. That is the way I started off. Try and develop my own. Send someone in the industry to proofread it or to like walk me through the necessary clauses that are supposed to be in the agreement. Do you get? Now, if you're also lucky, whenever you receive agreements from other parties to review, adapt them, keep it. And I think that's what most of us have done over time. I can't, sadly, I wish I could tell you that there's one particular piece that could give drafts. And even if I say now that at the end of this class, I'm going to put together all my drafts and send, I might not do that because of time. But then if reach out to me, reach out to Motayo and say, okay, I'm working on this writers agreement, I'm working on this actors agreement, or I'm working on this co-production deal, and I'm just trying to wrap my head around what clauses to add, then we can easily tell you, okay, yes, if you're talking about a co-production deal, then there have to be a right of first refusal, last refusal. There needs to be a clear auditing, financial costs, credits, creative control, all those things. We can walk you through it. I think that's the best way to navigate it. Don't shy away from reaching out to lawyers within Nigeria, outside Nigeria, anyone that is really into the film industry. If possible, lawyers that work in film production companies or lawyers that work with film production companies, not just, I'm not trying to reduce the quality of law firm lawyers, but I'm just saying like you can get more hands-on experience. If not, just reach out to any lawyer to guide you through it, and you slowly develop your own library of legal drafts or contract drafts to work with or templates to work with. Omotayo, I don't know if you have a you have a better answer. If probably have a document.
No, let me see. No, I do not have a document. Like you, I think you've rightly mentioned it, right? In the beginning too, I thought I could just, oh, can someone give me templates? There was even one template that was flying around one time like that. Is titled All Contracts. I have it, but I never used it because it's literally had nothing to do with it. It has everything, but it doesn't have everything, if I'll say it that way. So like you have to first of all understand you're first a lawyer before an entertainment lawyer, right? You understand the basics of contract law, and what you mentioned, I was happy you mentioned that. I thought it was just me. I didn't know that it's something people do. When you get agreements on review, you have to review that agreement. So it's like you're amending something, you're looking at it from another eye, but that has also helped you to get something like like maybe like those that are in real estate, you call it something like off plan. It's like off plan. You're getting something that you can use to work on. So whenever you get any agreement to be reviewed on, that's a very, very, like, I think a good way to start. But you can never rely on that because you don't even know who drafted it. But with that, you can work on some things and never you ask questions. So see, I think I used to be a very shy person. Nobody believes I'm a shy person, but man, you have to ask questions, because when I tell myself, oh, I'm an expert in intellectual property law, but I know nothing about maritime law, and if something comes up about maritime law, I'm like, I do not know it. I will ask somebody if I need to. So there's no one that can say they are independent of this. So you have to just ask. But I don't know if I'll be able to, like she said, to maybe give you some of these documents are actually highly confidential. So I don't think it's even going to be possible for someone to take out all of their real-time drafts and send out, right? But it's good that you're even able to work on it. maybe one or two, I may be able to send a template if someone reaches out to me, someone I know personally. I think I can afford to share some documents which I don't see as really confidential, or a draft that I can actually spare to send. Do you understand? And you can, if you check online, like what you just did, right? You research. If you check online, most of what you might get are things that work in the United States or Europe, UK, and you really have to domesticate all of those contracts or localize all of those contracts back to what's obtainable here. So I don't know. I don't want to go around. I feel like I'm saying the same thing Amanda has said. So it's not like I'm adding anything new, basically. So it's a work in progress. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much. Well, if I may, the bit about confidentiality, it might be helpful if you just take out the parties' names. I mean, confidentiality is, incredibly hinged on persons. And if the agreements do not reflect the persons, do not reflect the legal personnel, be it, a natural person, a corporate entity, then there really is no breach on our confidentiality, because these drafts have been a major challenge. Because I think even in the Nigerian law school, a major challenge is drafts, not necessarily their unavailability, but their practicability to the Nigerian reality. Because some of these drafts are just, I mean, I've seen some drafts online because I did a bit of research, but like they don't apply. They don't really apply, because some of these drafts reflect, the credit system, social security system of the environment where the authors are based. Some of these drafts reflect financial obligations that are enforced within these countries that have no bearing to Nigeria. And even when you try to, remove some of these, sort of a chimera of sorts to piece out these parts, put in these parts, most times you end up with a caricature, and it's just a skeletal outlook kind of thing. And it doesn't help that sometimes when you're meeting with new clients, they don't have legal interest at the forefront of their minds, because as you guys mentioned earlier, they're focused on their crafts. So if I'm here thinking, oh, how can I legally improve this person's experience, and all this person can think about is their money, their time, their efforts, some of these things, I mean, the way my experience with legal terminology works, if you don't know it, you don't know it. Even if if you search for it, or even if you see it, you won't realize this applies. Because even some legal terms are very simple and straightforward. If you approach them and you think of them in a layman view, they really wouldn't get through. That's why my challenge with drafts is really major, because I think I don't get why there's a scarcity of drafts, and apparently it's always been this way. It's always been this way, because the all drafts that you mentioned, someone did mention it to me once, and I asked, why is there an all draft that flew about, and then afterwards nobody thought maybe it might be time? Even Nigerian legislations, you don't get copies or access to Nigerian legislation. You only get access to Nigerian legislations because of the efforts of non-governmental organizations. I think there's this West African something or FO something. They're the only reasons we have them. You just click on them and you see a PDF uploaded with their stamp or something. So I just think it might be really helpful. You could just, I mean, it's not really something that should take a lot of time. You could just search out the party with the Microsoft and just replace it with a dot or something, and possibly upload it on a Google Drive, because it's a start for us new wigs. Because even getting documents to review, if I look to my left, I look to my right, it's my colleagues that are here with me. We're all new wigs. We don't entirely get documents to review until our second year, or maybe a year and a half. What we get are, oh, do research on this clause. Okay, there's this clause in this agreement. Focus on it and maybe recouch it, because nobody wants to give us sensitive work yet. They want to ease us and then maybe, raise the, what's it called, the effort or something. So that's just really helpful. It's been super helpful, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Oluwadamilola. I think like our mentors earlier said, If at all that is going to be possible, you may need to reach out to them privately. I would advise that you try to connect with them. They are both, Miss Amanda and Miss Omosaya are all very, very, very active on LinkedIn. You can connect, and then if there's any way in which they can help you, and also they can help you within that sense, right, and within that context, I'm sure they will do well to help as much as they can. So we'll go back to asking questions, taking questions. Joy, it's like you wanted asking a question. Please, you can go ahead and ask your questions if you have any, and then we'll take more questions and we'll call it a day.
All right. Hi once again. So I do have like a few questions from some of the things I studied personally, and I just want to know if like I just have general knowledge. I just want to know if they are applicable in the Nigerian film industry or the Nigerian entertainment industry at large. So yeah, we know that there are economic rights and there are also moral rights. And one of the mentors earlier mentioned that you can decide to sell all your rights or parts of your rights. And then I want to ask, like, since you can actually sell all your economic rights, but you cannot really sell your moral rights, even after selling your economic rights, can you institute an action like for infringement based on just your moral rights? Like, let's say, for example, there's rights of integrity, and I'm a script writer. I write a script based on like a particular message that I want to pass. I sell it completely. I sell everything, but I still have like my moral rights. And then the people I sold my entire rights to ended up making the film based on the script, but they just changed the message in a way that negatively presents the message I wanted to present in the first place. Can I institute an action based on that? Like, I don't know if that's possible. And also for the economic rights, are they inheritable? Can they be willed? Like in case, because I know that copyright protection of copyrights expire after a couple of years after the death of the author and all that. So can the author transfer those rights or like will them to maybe a child or something like that? And yeah, that's basically it for now.
Okay, starting with your last question, can it be willed? If the rights are valid, yes, you can deal with intellectual property just like you do with physical properties. So you can transfer rights to someone, you can have an administrator administer those rights on behalf of your estates, as far as the rights haven't gone back to public domain yet. Now, on the part of economic rights and moral rights, and if you sell your script or you sell the rights to your script or your movie and they make something different from what you want them to make, except if the production company don't know what they are doing, they cannot buy your moral rights, but they can have you waive it or waive it to the extent of you having the right to object to any modification. Do you get? So there are tiny bits of, like, when you look at it, you can't look at it from this just a one fit it all, you cannot sell it and that is it. No, because truth about it is that the moral rights, most likely what they only leave for you is the fact that in as much as you sold it to them, you have the right to come out and say, oh, I made this story before I sold it to this person. Some people even have you transfer and waive your rights in total because you sold it to them. They don't want you to have any business aligning yourself to it. This is it in practical terms. Why some people say, okay, fine, we're limiting you to come out, we're limiting you to the part of creativity. You cannot object to us reworking the story, you cannot object to us modify. Imagine let's just look at you now as a business person, you're a studio and you pay, let's say, almost $1 million, or you pay, okay, no one pays that outrageous in millions, but let's say you pay 10 million naira for the rights to the script. And then you had to like struggle, maybe get an investor, spend most of your money to buy it, only for the writer to come out tomorrow and say you cannot flip that script how you want it to be. So why did you buy it? You might as well have just added the writer to the production, have he or she rewrite the script for the production, pay him or her as a writer, and just move on. Do you understand? So when you're dealing with it, whether as a lawyer or as an executive, as a creative, think about it from the point of person losing and person gaining. It's money, it's business. So anything that will be detrimental to that your client, let's say you're the lawyer, and anything that will be detrimental to your clients in the near future from moving on with this project, from the point of view working on that sales agreement, you have to nip it. And if you're the writer, if you're the lawyer to the writer, you can try your best to push it, but I don't think even the writer wants to go through all of that. Take your money, at most keep don't transfer your or waive your right to the extent that the writer being your client to still align he or herself as a writer of this script. So that is it. I hope that answers the question.
All right. Thank you very much, Ma. All right. Thank you very much, Ma. Moving on, we still have a few questions on the chat box, and we would like to quickly run through them so that we can call it a class. We are spent on our time, on the scheduled time for today's class. So the first question here from, if I'm not mistaken, from Chidera or Chigozi is how can one begin, how and where does one begin one's legal career in this area of law? Right? Are there recommended film production firm that one can go for an internship to learn the film business, to learn the film production business?
Where you can start from, as sad as it is, I'll say start from where you are. So I know, I think Damilola already mentioned that new weeks, you might not get agreements to review within your first year. It might be up to your second year. Even if you're spending your first year just attending as much webinars as possible, reading up, getting ready. If you have the opportunity to shadow or to intern or to work with any of the lawyers that are working. For example, before I joined Ebony Life, when I was wrapping up my NYSC, before I ever even thought that Ebony Life was going to give me a chance or was going to interview with them, I reached out to the head of legal there, and I was like, okay, I know you guys don't have any opening, but I would like to shadow you. I would like to be your assistant. Don't pay me. But whatever work that you don't really have, let me know. And in as much as I didn't do much work, but she put me on to certain topics and certain aspects of the film industry I had to pay attention to, because before then, what I knew was just law of contract. What I knew is just intellectual property. This person owns this contract, will say this, say that, but not exactly like the business, the little tiny details that make literally the industry rumble, things like that. So start where you are. On the part of production houses that you should you can work with. Sadly, I don't know anyone that is taking internship or interns at the moment, but feel free to reach out to any of their lawyers. You can reach out to the guys at Ebony Life. Currently, we have Omotayo, not this Omotayo that was there with us, another Omotayo. We have Kofo is also there, and there are three. I've forgotten the other lady's name. On Ajite, three of them. Can reach out to any of them. You also have Trino Pictures. I think they have a movie out now, Lockdown. You can reach out to she's in legal department. You can reach out to what's name of these ladies? Literally anyone. So whether it's all of the names are leaving my head. The guy that owns the film village that does a lot of Anikolapo producer, you can reach out to them. I don't know if they have an in-house lawyer, but just feel free to, like say, Afolayan, thank you. Feel free to stalk any of these production companies. Check most times during the premiere or anything. You can also, maybe when you're watching the movie, get down to the parts where they give legal their credits. Research any of the guys there, reach out to them. They are the ones that will tell you, because truth about it that it would be very hard for you to see a production company come out and say we're looking for legal interns. It's the lawyers in-house that will let you know, okay, is this a possibility with the company? Is there a budget for it? And if you're willing to work for free, I think you coming around the office or coming around whenever there's an active set is not going to be bad. So that's it. I can't tell you now that I know one or two, but any of them. What's her name? The lady that did Christmas in Lagos, reach out to her. So you can reach out to the lawyers I know they have actually left. You can reach out to our company. You can reach out to King of Boys. Trying to remember the actual names, but it's keeping my head. But you can reach out, like I said, Jade them exactly. You can stalk any of their movie and look out for the credit for legal and reach out to any of those people and ask. They are the best. But start where you are. Don't wait till an opportunity comes for you to opportunity. How does I think opportunity meets the prepared or something like that. Just be this kind of mentorship program or this kind of conversations are very, very interesting to be involved in. Do your research. If there's any form of confusion, you can reach out to any of the film lawyers, anyone online. Reach out to me. Even if it's a voice note, I can answer you. If you have specific questions, if you say, hi, I need help, I don't know how to help you. But if you come with specific questions, clarification, I can easily help out with that. So start where you are and hopefully something pans out one day. I think that's
All
it.
right. Thank you very much, Ma, for helping us with that question. Unfortunately, Miss Omotayo is no longer here with us on the call, but since we have Miss Amanda still here with us, we'll just run through what's left of the questions. I'm sure she can help us with them, and then we'll call it a night. Okay, we still have two questions from the research questions that were sent. The first one being, what legal considerations should Nigerian filmmakers keep in mind when seeking international distribution deals? And then the second one is the resources on ownership of film business are conflicting. How do we clarify these resources?
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm with you. Sorry, I just left the screen, so I was trying to find it. Okay. The first question, legal considerations filmmakers should keep in mind when seeking international distribution deals. I think the main thing, first, obviously, if there are any filmmakers here, I will say get a lawyer. But when it comes to legal considerations, you have to understand that their landscape is different from ours. So if you're looking for an international distribution deal, you need to figure out, most times the agreements are very, very detailed and very complicated. So you have to read all of the fine lines, read everything. Don't just jump into the IP law and look at it and say, okay, yes, it says this. Also, there needs to be clarity on the extent of the power of the distribution company, what they are doing. If it's a worldwide deal, if it's particular territories, if they're helping you shop for both streaming platforms and all of that, if they're also helping you place your movies on or place your production on other abstract distribution methods. For example, if you're one guys can place your movie on plane, airplane, on air entertainment, all of those things that can help you send your movies for research purposes and all of that. So I think the main thing filmmakers have to keep in mind is just that the landscape is different. You cannot approach it the way you approach every other distribution deal. You have to read up the fine lines. You have to understand whether it's international or not international. You're not supposed to transfer your intellectual property. You can assign it for the sake of normally you don't even have any business beyond just assigning it on the basis of helping you place it in the proper place. But I think general thing is get a lawyer, and you as the lawyer, if you're reviewing those agreements, don't shy away from reaching out to your international friends, because most times there are things in the agreement. I've reviewed like 2 of those agreements, and 2 of them are not the same. One was very simple, straight to the point, 2-page, no so much drama, while the other one was literally on page 5 is contradicting what page 2 says. So if you reach page 2 and you're like, wow, good, and you just can't read the rest, you end up in problems. So read it thoroughly. I hope that answers that. Second question is resources on ownership of film businesses are conflicting. How can we clarify these resources? I'm not sure what you mean by resources on ownership of film business. Dennis, can you shine any light on that? Let me know and answer properly.
Okay, I may not necessarily be able to do that. But then if the group were the ones that sent in the question, the particular person that asked this question, if you're in the class, please can you kindly share more light on the question so that we can have our mentor answer? Do we have anybody in group one who can help us clarify this question so that we can have Miss Amanda answer? Okay. Okay,
All right.
all right, so I want to assume that the person who asked this question is not here with us anymore. So if that is the case, I think it's safe to say we've been able to cover quite a number of questions, and our mentors. Ms.
Hi.
Amanda, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, let me just hover around it and hopefully that answers what the person was going for. Ownership of film business. Let me just take it as you're meaning ownership of production. So when it comes to, unlike music most times when it comes to contributing factors, except if you're talking about what's it called, music sampling or interpolation, most times you're dealing with a 2-man, 3-man group at most. You have the artist, you have maybe a featured artist, the songwriter, the producer at most, instrumentalist, okay. But you can never, I'm yet to find, except if you're talking about a full body of work, like an album, I'm yet to see one single that has up to 10 people, 10 contributors on it. But the film industry is different. So in the film industry, there are little bits of contributors, and everybody has down to the person that is holding the light, to the person that made the set, to the person holding the mic, to the person doing the production design. Everybody has an intellectual property involved or gained from that production. So within the film industry, you hear things like chain of title. Chain of title literally is a cluster of documents that prove that the production company or the studio owns the movie. So just like we have it land documents. When you want to check if the title is good, you want to go through their steps. This person owned it this way, this person owned it this way, this person owned it this way. In the film industry, every little bit of agreement signed by the producer, the director, the crew members, the actors, the distributors, everybody that signs an agreement transferring their intellectual property to the production company. When you couple together all of those agreements, it establishes the chain of title. And it's the chain of title that establishes who owns the production. Now, when you're looking at a co-production deal, for example, we have War, which is a remake or a sequel or whatever you want to call it of Sons of Caliphate. War is a Ebony Life production, but it was shot by what's his name? Atia, trying to find his first name, but he's known for a lot of his northern movies. He does really well. He's the guy that also directed Sons of Caliphate. Now, that kind of deal, what was entered was at Everyone Live, we entered a co-production. Yes, like a land reciter, we entered a co-production deal with him, where what we know is that we provide him with the money. He does this casting, he does the crew, everybody involved. We just give him the money, we give him the documents that everybody should sign to ensure that they transfer intellectual property to him, his company. And then at the end of the day, there's a root document between Ebony Life and him, saying that all that he's going to make, all the intellectual property that he has in this is transferred to Ebony Life. So all of those things now set up the chain of title. So whoever is on set, the producers, the directors, probably till the film came out, they never knew it was an Ebony Life movie because they are dealing with this producer and his team. But then those at Ebony Life, we knew that, okay, our movie is being made. We are checking in with him. He was giving daily reports weekly reports on what's going on, how the money is being used, if there's need for more money, what's going on, sending in stills, sending in customers appeal, sending us all the documents that we needed to know that the production was going on. And when we got to the point of, okay, this movie is out, and we went back to A Boy in Life. So we went back to Netflix. All Netflix knows is that A Boy in Life did a production and we licensed it. They really don't know the root of it. So when it comes to ownership in film industry, ownership in of a production, it dwells a lot on the documentation. That's why it's very, very important in the film industry. Documentation is what enforces who owns an intellectual property. Because if you don't even have proper documentation, you go and rush and register your movie. Except if the writer on set or the producer on set or the guy that I'm trying to remember most of their names, the cinematographers, the arts department guys, the showrunner, the costumier, except if all of those guys signed agreements saying that they transferred intellectual property to you, I don't know what you're going to register at Copyright Commission. It's those rights that you get back from them that you go and register. There's nothing you have. So that is the way you can approach ownership of production, be it any production from an Nigerian or African point of view. Note that when you're dealing with international parties, with writers, with co-production companies, the Universals, the Green Door, all of those guys, in other jurisdiction, it stands different. But what I've stated to you is what happens in Africa, and to an extent is generally applicable with a bit of tweaks here and there for other jurisdictions. So I hope that answers the person's question, if that's what he or she was going for. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Miss Amanda, for trying your best to give light to that question. I really, really hope that so far every mentee that is here has learned a lot from our mentors, Miss Amanda and Miss Omotayo. They've spoken extensively, trying to give in-depth insights into the film business and law part of it, right? Discussing beyond just, from a research or theoretical point of view to what in-house production is like, and some of the technicalities around it. And I really hope we really learned a lot. This class is being streamed, so you can always revisit it if there are particular things you may need to follow up on. So with this, we've come to the end of today's class. Thank you so much, Miss Amanda. We are really, really excited to have you here with us, shedding light to the film business and law, we are truly, truly grateful. I want our mentees that are here with us on class to please kindly indicate by showing your appreciation with an emoji. Just kindly do well to show your appreciation to our mentors, Miss Amanda and Miss Omotayo in Essential. Yes, all right, thank you so much. So with this, we've come to the end of today's class. Keep in mind that we'll continue in week 2 with music business and law. The topic for next week will be sent along with your research and what you will need to do ahead of the next class. Do well to post what you've learned in today's class on your different social media platforms. Tag our mentors. Try as much as possible to connect with them. Right. You can also always reach out to them. Like Ms. Amanda has said, you can ask questions. Please, when you reach out to our mentors, let it be strictly professional. Try and keep it straight with your questions, so that it doesn't seem inappropriate. So thank you once again, everyone, for joining in for today's class. Good night, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your evening.